Hello, my name is Fiona Brady and I'm the Head of Education with Down Syndrome Ireland, and I want to welcome you to this short presentation on communication between schools and parents, and communication between parents and schools. Communication acts as a bridge to any engagement that we have, and in a school parent setting it leads to very strong parent partnerships with schools. And once parents and teachers communicate well with each other, they're able to work together, and this in turn helps their students and helps their children to reach their potential. As well as acknowledging the importance of parent-teacher and teacher-parent communication, it's important to have an agreed way for parents and teachers to communicate. Good communication is essential, both between home and school. Legislation acknowledges the value of collaboration between parents and teachers, and it also places a great emphasis on the crucial contribution that parents make to their child's education and in turn to parent-school relationships. So with this in mind, each school needs to develop and use a policy for communication with parents, and this must be available for parents to view and to access, and it should be reviewed regularly. It's not a case of writing a policy on communication between the parent and the school and then just putting it in a folder on a shelf. It needs to be reviewed and it needs to be used. There are three main forms of communication to be utilised in school settings. The first form is in-person communication. The second form is technology-based communication. And the third form is written communication. Now, firstly, let us take a look at in-person communication. And in-person communication can be one-to-one, it can be just the parent and the teacher, or it can be the parents with the class teacher and the resource teacher and the principal, it can be the two parents, it can be whatever way the communication is going to work. Now, this isn't necessary every week, but for a student with Down syndrome, this should happen every month or 6 weeks at a minimum. And ideally, the timings of these meetings should be set at the start of the school year, with both teachers and parents consulted, and time set and an agreement reached on when these in-person communications will take place. The second form of communication that should be used is technology-based communication. And any technology-based communication should be used on a weekly basis at a minimum, and indeed at additional times as the need arises. And in post-primary school, the SEN coordinator, or at primary school, the SEN teacher is best placed to issue this form of communication. So that would be a weekly email, for example. And the third form of communication then is written communication. Now, compared to technology-based communication that we engage in a lot today, written communication may sometimes feel a little bit old school. But a note for parents can help them feel in the know. It adds a personal touch and often provides families with a physical reminder for upcoming events. It can also help parents to know and to be up to speed with what their child is actually doing at school. And a written daily communication log or a communication journal or a communication diary is the ideal medium for this form of written communication. as I said already, it's an ideal way to keep parents in the know. It's an ideal way for parents to keep track of their child's progress. And other things too, it provides opportunities for parents to discuss the school day with their child, to pre-teach maybe any vocabulary that the child will need for the next day or for the following week, or to prepare their child at home for any upcoming learning or activities that may be going to happen in the classroom. In the same way, teachers can be made aware of the child's activities at home. So then they're able to have discussions with the child about these activities and about things that are relevant to the child during the school day. So when we use it effectively, it allows for understanding and continuity. And here we need to remember that many children with Down syndrome find verbal communication difficult. So the communication log or diary, either sent home or sent to the school, overcomes this difficulty. It's infinitely preferable to a conversation at a school gate. Because first of all, if the child hears that conversation, well then why should they bother talking to mommy again when they go home? Somebody else has told her. And realistically, apart from just the aspect of communication, the school gate is not an appropriate place for any conversations, and they shouldn't be happening. Another point to remember here is that the communication book should not be used solely for negative comments. It's very important to have positive statements included. Sometimes students can become very focused on the negative comments, so there should always be positive entries in the book. And there is some research that has shown that when we are keeping communication diaries or journals for parents, that there should be 5 positive statements for every 1 negative. So just be careful that the communication journal does not turn into a bad news book. So how do we establish the procedures for communication? How do we discover the best methods of communication and formulate plans for this? We need to do this early in the year, and we need to keep it consistent throughout the year. Because the best way of avoiding misunderstandings is that we have ongoing, clear lines of communication from the very beginning. So let's have a look at some ground rules. And these would be ground rules for effective communication. First of all, teachers must explain how and when they keep in touch with parents. It is important to decide when the teacher will take and return phone calls and emails, or when they are available for one-to-one meetings. And the one-to-one meetings should really be organised at the start of the year. But the teacher may not be able to take phone calls and will not be able to take phone calls every day at any particular time. So it's a good idea to suggest that there might be 1 day a week that the teacher will email the parent, as we've talked about already in the technology communications. So, a day, settle the day and have the day picked. Deciding the times in advance and sticking to them will eliminate the need for parents expecting to talk to the teacher in the school car park, or monopolising the teacher's attention outside the classroom door before or after school, or vice versa. Similarly, approaching teachers in the shopping centre or when they're not anywhere near the school building to discuss a child's progress or an issue with some child is completely inappropriate. Just looking back for a moment at the phone calls, it's inappropriate to ring teachers at lunchtime or ring teachers at break time and expect them to have a conversation with you. So when these ground rules are put in place then clearly at the start of the year and they're consistently maintained throughout the year, not alone is this for teachers, but it's also giving a clear message to parents that they should not or they cannot show up unannounced with no appointment and expect the teacher to drop everything and speak with them. If we want to go to our doctor, we have to make an appointment. If we want to go to our dentist, we have to make an appointment. Therefore, the same rules should apply in the school. Parents should not feel that they can just go in and arrive at the classroom door and expect the teacher to have a conversation with them. In addition, sometimes parents go to the classroom every day with some issue or some suggestion. Daily visits to the classroom by parents is completely unnecessary. And this applies at post-primary school as well, daily visits to the school for whatever reason. But they're not necessary. These can be addressed in the communication log. It can be addressed in the weekly email communication or the one-to-one meeting as appropriate every 6 weeks or so. Now, once these procedures are put in place, parents must stick to them too, the same as teachers must stick to it with parents. Similarly, teachers need to be aware that phone calls to parents without any prior arrangement can cause difficulties for parents who may be working. So again, you see how it works both ways. Once the ground rules are in place, there's no issues for anybody. Of course, if an emergency situation arises out of the agreed times, parents need to contact the school office or the principal and request an appointment as soon as is convenient for all concerned. Again, as I've said already, we need an appointment in many walks of life, and the same approach needs to be taken with schools and teachers and parents. Also, parents, it's very important to give details for a pre-arranged contact person that should be provided for the school if an emergency arises. And I know most schools will request that in their enrolment forms. Just one other issue that comes up quite a lot, and I just want to clarify the situation here. It may be appropriate for the SNA to convey information to parents in relation to, for example, upcoming school events or activities, or whether they need to bring money for the school tour, or whether they need their PE clothes, or whatever. It is completely inappropriate for the SNA to discuss any issues with parents, or indeed vice versa. Parents should not be discussing issues with SNAs in relation to any of the work being done in the school, in relation to their child's progress, or in relation to behavioural issues. Such information must always be communicated from or to the teacher, not the SNA. And this is very important, and in many schools there is a ruling in place by the principal that SNAs do not discuss children with their parents, and that is quite acceptable. It's the teacher we discuss our child's progress, the work we've done in school, any behavioural issues, etc., etc. Over the summer in Down Syndrome Ireland, we have developed a communication pilot programme at both primary and post-primary school. We have developed a communication information document for parents and schools, and we also have developed templates for possible communication diaries or communication logs for parents and teachers. We have sample covers and sample diary pages that are now available on the Down Syndrome Ireland website, and they're available to freely download. We hope eventually to publish a proper school journal, school diary, but in the meantime this is a pilot programme and we will be reviewing it at the end of this school year. So there you see a sample of the primary communication journal or diary, and you see there's a date, so 1 page per day, message from home if there's any, message from school, if there's any, and any other reminders or other notes. So you can see that you don't have to write an essay. Nobody needs an essay. A few points, a few bullet points is all that's necessary. Similarly, at post-primary school, we also have templates, a slightly different layout at the post-primary level, because obviously there are more teachers than one teacher involved. There's a space there for 5 teachers to write a message if necessary. There's a space for messages from home, and there is a space for any reminders or other notes. And as I said already, these are all available to download on the Down Syndrome Ireland website at the moment, and we will be reviewing these at the end of the school year and hopefully publishing them in proper form. Just to remind you again of some of the very useful websites that are out there with resources for parents, resources for teachers. We have www.ncse.ie, the National Council for Special Education. We have www.neps.ie, the National Education Psychological Service. And the link there is to the Down Syndrome Ireland website, but it's to the support section for educational professionals. And of course, parents are welcome to access this as well. And here you will find a lot of downloads, lots of resources, and a whole section on online education seminars, where this one has been, you found this one. So these are all very useful resources and very valuable to you as your child progresses on their educational journey. And finally, I have some contact details there. Nicola Hart is our Head of Member Support in Down Syndrome Ireland, and Nicola can be contacted at nicola@downsyndrome.ie. You see my own email address there, fidelma@downsyndrome.ie, and please feel free to contact me at any stage if you need support or if I can help you in any way. And finally, again, just a reminder of the website of Down Syndrome Ireland, www.downsyndrome.ie. So thank you for joining this webinar this evening, and I hope you will find it helpful. Bye for now.